Actually, before I get into this, I'm going to fix some tea with my Pisces cup because I am a Pisces moon, which it does say compassionate, imaginative, selfless, intuitive, and wise. I am all of those things. Aren't I, Oliver? Aren't I? He's like, bitch, you lying. Except I'm not. What do I want today? Do I want chai or like cinnamon, or you're not even here, so I'm just trying to be a YouTuber and like talk to you like you're here now, because that's like what they do. But I do have several here because I'm a tea fanatic. Spiced chai. I have vanilla bean macaroon and vanilla chai. I love chai. I also have green tea and some chamomile with lemon herbal tea. I think I'm gonna go with vanilla chai and spiced chai because I'm a lunatic and that's how we do things. I'm going to talk about an experience I had when I was a child, and it does have to do with dreaming. In my last video, I think maybe I mentioned that I am a very vivid dreamer. I've always been able to lucid dream. A lot of my dreams have actually come to fruition, which is kind of creepy. But this one was almost, instead of it being a dream about the future, it was kind of like I time traveled into the past. It gives me chills just thinking about it, and I'm going to try not to cry, but just thinking back in retrospect to that time of my life, I felt like a victim. I felt victimized because my dad died before I was born. So I never actually met my father. And on top of that, my mother was and is a drug addict, and she's been in and out of jail my entire life. I'm pretty sure she is incarcerated as I speak now. But that wasn't really the big issue. It was just, as a child, I was raised by my grandmother for the longest period of my life, and which was great. She's basically my mother, and I am so incredibly thankful for her. But at the time, being so young, I was probably about 10, possibly 10 or 11, maybe 9. I struggled so much with the fact that I didn't have a father. I would look at other children and their happy families. I remember being at this fireworks show on a vacation with my aunt and cousins, and seeing like this little girl up on her father's shoulders. Like, I remember being that young, looking at the two of them and just thinking, I'll never have that. So here's what happened. 5 months before I was born, my father and his brother got into a car accident, and it was pretty brutal. The driver was drunk, under the influence, and he actually survived the crash. But my father and his brother, so my grandmother's 2 sons, died. My grandmother lost 2 sons at once. And the crazy thing is that both of them were expecting babies. Both of them had expecting mothers. Their girlfriends were both pregnant, I being one of those. Me and my cousin are actually exactly 2 months apart. I was born on June 20th, and he was born on August 20th. So, my father was 18 years old when he died. This is really hard to talk about. I've never really talked about it like this before. I've written about it, and I've told people that are close to me, but actually like sitting down in front of a camera and like talking about it, it's a lot. But when I was younger, as I've said so many times, I really struggled with this. I felt like a victim. I was like, why? I would question God. I would be in my room and I would be cursing God. I was this little girl and I was cursing God because I didn't have a dad. And I just thought it was so unfair, and I just did not understand why me? I think we've all asked that at some point, whether vocally aloud or in our heads, like, or subconsciously, whatever. We're just like, why me? Why do I deserve this? Why? Out of everybody. That hit good. Very warm. I was always this spiritual little witchy child. I was convinced I was a witch when I was a little girl. I would go out into the woods and like cast spells, and this was in like the 90s, early 2000s, like crazy stuff. I had my own little secret garden where it was like this patch in the woods where it was just flat land surrounded by trees, like the forest, and I would stand there and just imagine all these butterflies and just like this magical fairy kingdom that was just mine, and I could just do whatever I wanted, and I could cast spells, and I dressed up as a witch every single year for Halloween. Like I was a witch. In my head, Jonna was a witch. So I would try and cast spells. I would ask for signs from God. And again, I was like 9 or 10 years old. I was so young. And I would write down spells, or like write down, God, please give me a sign. And I would like put it in a book and like hope that something would manifest from that. I don't know. But I remember being on like one of those old school box computers back when they used floppy disks. I'm like really telling my age here. But I would research spells to like use, like bring somebody back to life, or talk to a ghost, or connect or something. And I just remember vividly there was one day where I was screaming at God, the universe, whatever I thought was out there, anything that was willing to listen. I was like, give me a sign, like give me something, just anything. And I remember I was still in that mindset where I was, oh, this is so tragic. I don't have a dad. Like, God hates me. I'm just doomed for life, you know. And at the time, I wasn't considered old enough to stay by myself over the summers when my grandma would work and I wasn't in school. So my aunt would babysit me. There was a night where I spent the night. Let me just preface this by saying I have never dreamt of my father any other time in my entire life that I can recall, except this one time. And I will also say that I remember my dreams pretty much every single night. And they also like to say, oh, you don't dream about anything that you don't know, or, you know, I don't believe in that. But I do think it's really interesting that pretty much everyone in my life, everyone that I care for or know anything about, I've had multiple, on top of multiple dreams about. But my father, just one. And it was this one that I'm about to tell you about. It started out what I would assume was late 70s, early 80s. In this dream, my father looked to be about 9, 10, or 11 years old, so basically the same age as me at the time. We were in his house, in his home, and he was showing me, giving me a tour of his home, and most specifically his bedroom. And I remember him pointing to his bed, showing me his 2 like bunk beds, and he was talking about like how this one's his and this is where, you know, his brother sleeps. It's like I was just a friend. I was just a girl that he was just showing his house to. And then I remember looking into like the living room area and seeing my aunt like lying on her stomach watching one of those like floor TVs that were like just boxes, but they sat on the floor and they were kind of large. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. And it was just very smoky, like the atmosphere, like the air in the room was really smoky. And then it just like clicked, and it was like fast forward to the age he was when he died. And I was standing across the street, still, you know, this preteen, like this little girl. I was standing across the street looking at these houses, and he was his 18-year-old self. Him and his brother, my uncle, were walking to the car that they crashed into, and I was across the street, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I was saying, "Don't get in the car, don't get in the car, you're gonna die, don't get in the car, don't get in the car, like, stop." And this time, like, this version of him didn't see me, didn't hear me. It was like, it wasn't the little boy that was directly communicating with me. It was like there was nothing I could do, essentially. I was trying to warn him, and it was just useless because he couldn't hear me. He didn't see me. It was almost like I was just watching like one of those old school films. Like, it's really hard to explain. But here's the part that made me think that it was more than just this random dream about my father. When I woke up, I didn't just wake up, you know, on my own. I have the ability to make myself wake up. I didn't do that. I woke up by the sensation of being kissed on the cheek. And it was still lingering there when I opened my eyes. I opened my eyes, still feeling this sensation on my cheek, like someone had just kissed me. And I just lied there. I didn't move. I didn't necessarily feel scared, but I didn't feel alone. And in my heart, I knew that I wasn't alone. I just knew it. I wasn't alone. The next morning, my aunt was fixing breakfast, and I remember just straight up telling her about the dream, about the kiss. And I swear, I remember looking into the kitchen at her. She was in front of the sink, and like, she just looked so confused, so disturbed, and she didn't even say anything to me. Like, I know she heard me. I could tell from like her facial expressions, everything, like just the energy in the room just changed, and she didn't even respond. Like, I think she was that freaked out. So let's add more. I told my grandma about this dream and described to her everything that I saw, the house, the bunk beds, like the TV, like the placement, everything. And I remember her face just, it was a look of amazement, but also like sorrow. I don't know. But she said that it was basically her house then. Like, she said that it basically what I described. Like, they had bunk beds, they had all this, and that, did, you know, God or the universe or my father send me a message through dreamland? Was it him directly, or was it just anything? It's so crazy. Like, I can't even word it. So like, everything's just jumbled. The most amazing part is when I look back, after this dream, the whole victim feeling disappeared. I don't recall after that ever feeling like sad. Like, not the sad that I was feeling, not like I hate myself, I must have done something awful to deserve this, like where I would cry about it and try to cast spells. You know, it all stopped after that dream. Even though in the dream it was kind of horrific because I was screaming at my father, like, "You're going to die if you get in this car." It's like knowing that there was just nothing I could do, and feeling that kiss and knowing, like, maybe he's okay and maybe I'm going to be okay. It just changed everything. And after that, like, the victim mentality just disappeared as far as that goes, as far as not having a father. So, yeah. Maybe he's still with me. Maybe he's off doing something else somewhere. He, she, it. whatever. People are gonna think I'm nutso, like absolutely crazy. But let me know in the comments below if you've ever had crazy dreams, whether like they predicted the future, or you time traveled, or you got like a crazy message in your dream, anything like that, because I'm fascinated with dreams. I think there's so much more to the human mind, the actual biology of like the physical matter that we are, and also like the spiritual soul energy aspect. Like, it's just fascinating to me. So if you have any like info about that, or any personal experiences you would like to share, then please do, because I love reading that stuff, and basically anything. I just love to read. So you can write me a novel and I will read it and I will be like, that's awesome. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. And I hope you have a great weekend, because mine is starting and I'm gonna go get some food and some tequila tonight. Bye.